You're listening to the Renegade Blitz, the best podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz podcast. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, back with you to talk about the NFL draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And man, it was a very exciting one. The Steelers got their guy at the top of the round, but also there's a bunch of other interesting little things that they got in the meantime of this draft that we want to talk about as well. And what more can we say about our next guest we have here? It's kind of a legend in the Pittsburgh sporting world. He's bumped elbows with just about anyone and everyone that has come through in the media side from here, from Chris Carter, who we've had on this show numerous times, all the way out to guys like I seen at the Western Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame this past weekend, and I talked to him then, and I knew right then and there we had to get him on the show. So it's an honor, it's a privilege to bring on Smokin' Jim Frazier, NFL scout, host of Pittsburgh Sportsline and Steel City Sports World, and also the Boxing Authorities with Claudio Relzano and Luther J. Dupree. Smokin' Jim, we've been talking about you a lot on this show and off air. It's probably the best episode we'll ever have with you on, man.
Hey, thanks, Ty. I always enjoy working with you and my main man, Brandon Skywalker, man. It's going to be fun, and looking forward to meeting Chris as well.
Yeah, of course, this is the first meeting of Chris Ward and Smokin' Jim Frazier, and just say, Chris, get ready, man. It's going to be a wild one, but you'll enjoy it at the end, man. But, of course, when you talk about the Steelers draft, you think of this. They had to wait 20 picks for a quarterback to be selected. No Malik Willis, no Kenny Pickett before them. They had to take their picket, as we had in our emergency podcast, which you could catch on our Twitter page. We left it there, but we're going to use the title for this episode of the Renegade Blitz. They managed to get with the 20th overall pick, Kenny Pickett. He's staying home in Pittsburgh. He's had the I guess he's kind of been there before with everything, Permanis, Kenny Wood, the entire draft pick stick that all Steelers players get to go through. But Smokin' Jim, I want to get your thoughts on this. There was a lot of talk that it was going to be Willis for many weeks. It was Pickett. Did you have any thoughts about that? Did you see Kenny Pickett coming, or did you think it was Malik Willis as well?
All I know is 5 out of the 6 years that he was at Pitt, we'd rather have Wilson Pickett than Kenny Pickett. I thought Kenny Pickett would go early. I was hoping that Malik Willis would be there because I was excited about what we might see. I was in the, I was in the war room when the Ravens took, Lamar Jackson, and I remember how upset Coach Tomlin was. So I thought, man, he's going to get his Lamar Jackson with, Malik Willis. When they passed on him, I was shocked. But I tell you what, Kenny Pickett reminds me a lot of Mac Jones, former Alabama star, who's doing well with the New England Patriots. But when I put tape on, he also reminds me of somebody that went in the draft before Dan Marino, and that's Todd Blackledge. So hopefully it'll be more Mac Jones and less of Todd Blackledge.
Brandon, you kind of had a reaction of woo, and your thoughts on that prediction by Smokin' Jim?
Todd Blackledge, that goes back from what was it 80? That was 83. So 83, 4 years ago. I think that what the Steelers are doing, Jim. You think they're trying to make a makeup for missing out on Dan Marino? You think that's what that move is?
Well, I tell you what, man, they took a lot of heat locally. Steeler Nation is strong, and I think you got a good point. Listen, anytime you need a quarterback and you can get one of the top two quarterbacks in the draft, I think you got to pull the trigger. And they did not want that backlash of passing up on somebody. Not only did he break Dan Marino's record, but he's the ACC all-time leading touchdown, single season touchdown record holder. So you pretty much had to go. And plus, he makes good decisions. Look how pretty his fiance is.
Yeah, and smoking. What would you say? What is Kenny Pickett's biggest pro? You think you're positive, and what do you think is your biggest concern about him?
Well, I think the biggest plus is playing 6 years of college ball. I think a lot of times, man, the light bulb just goes off. I mean, if he'd have came out last year, I don't think he'd have got drafted. Maybe he'd have been sixth, seventh round, probably be in the USFL right now. But coming back for that last year, looked like the game slowed down for him. He's always been a good athlete. He could move around. I think he ran a 4.640. And don't forget that this is a draft for offensive coordinator Canada, and he played for Canada. He'll be able to immediately understand the offense. He can go in day training camp one and compete with Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. And I tell you what, he's an older, mature guy, 24 years old, but he worked on some things. He came into the season, he wasn't that good hitting the deep ball. He corrected those problems. He can read defenses. Like I said, don't forget, Mac Jones set the bench for Alabama for 4 years, and he only started 1 year, made the most of it, and look what he's doing with New England. So, playing quarterback's not that hard. Find an open receiver, hit the open receiver. So,
You guys got anything more to add about Pickett?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, if they didn't choose Pickett, who would you have had? Malik Willis, Howell, Ritter.
Even you can go non-quarterback. Lindenbaum was still available.
Anybody. Lindenbaum was still available. N'Kobe Dean was still available. You still had the kid who played for the Jets, Jack from Florida State, Jermaine Jackson. Is it Jackson or Johnson? But the pass rusher, you could have went to a lot of different directions. There's still some receivers on the board, even though you got some at Pickens at the second round. Who would you have picked if it wasn't Pickett?
Well, I said before the 2021 draft that it would be a bust of a draft if the Steelers didn't get Najee Harris. I didn't think he'd still be there when they selected. I thought they had to move up. I've been saying all offseason that it would be a bust of a draft if the Steelers didn't get Malik Willis. Listen, you got to have a face of your football team. You guys may be too young to remember when Cordell Stewart hit the tri-state area in 95. I mean, I always thought that a guy like Malik Willis didn't have to start, but it's hard to get 3rd and 2 in the National Football League. You put him in as a wildcat. This guy got 4.3 speed. He got a laser for an arm. There's so many things he can do. He's great off the field. He's a very religious guy. And I just thought that the excitement for Steeler Nation would have definitely been there. But I can definitely understand why the Pittsburgh Steelers pulled the trigger on Kenny Pitt.
Oh.
Draft and that bad taste out of making Devin Bush that runs away from more tackle football league. Terrell F. A few years only because his mom probably with Coach Tom because he slighted the
Jim, you're breaking up a little bit. Just letting you know.
They're still having those two players, those two guys.
Sorry about that, Jim. You broke up a little bit on the end right there, but
my Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, but we did catch the burn on Devin Bush, and guess who also was kind of going in on Devin Bush as well, our own Brandon Walker. So it's
Yeah.
good to see that the apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. But there's so much other things that you could talk about with the Steelers draft. Of course, Pickens is the next guy, and it's a universal across all facets of football Twitter that the Steelers stole this guy, and they say that this could potentially be the best wide receiver in the draft. Only played 4 games last year with Georgia in that national championship season because of a knee injury in the spring, but he still managed to, I guess, make somewhat of an impact to do that. But when you think about him, you think of course, the 3 seasons in which overall 90 receptions, 1,347 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Now, of course, there was talk about Jahan Dotson. He went to the Commanders. So, do you agree that this is the steal of the draft, at least in terms of that receiver room for the Steelers?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, definitely that was a great pick. This guy could be that Martavius Bryant type of athlete, 6'3", 195 pounds, fast. You don't know how that knee's going to hold out with the torn ACL. He got some off the field issues as well. But I tell you what, man, this is a guy. The Steelers lost 3 receivers in the offseason. They had to replace at least one of those guys, and I think George will do that.
All right, how do you feel about the other receiver, Calvin Austin? Little short, shifty receiver. How do you feel
Uh,
about that? Do you think he'll help out special teams?
I think you got the next Kevin Hart. I mean, I mean, what's he about 5'2", former walk on? Hey, listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been struggling at that position. Don't forget Switzer was that type of guy. Dre Archer was that type of guy. And to a lesser degree, Sammy Coates had all the speed in the world but couldn't catch a cold. So you just don't know. I don't believe he returned punts at Memphis. They're looking for him to return some punts, but he's a speed guy. He's a track guy. But I got him listed at about 5'7", so he got his work cut out for him. But Canada, that's what Canada loves. He loves that speed option, reverses, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick. So he could fill that bill. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, and Pickens, like Ty mentioned, like people are saying he could be the steal of the draft because lots of people say he would have been a first round pick if he didn't have that ACL injury. But I think like you mentioned the off field concerns. You think that I don't think that would be an issue with the Steelers because they dealt with receivers before. But I've seen just like he got in a fight with Georgia Tech, and I guess against Tennessee he squirted a water bottle on somebody or something. I guess those were 2 instances. But what do you know about him as a player? As far as off the field and on the field.
Well, I tell you what, on the field, man, he's a Georgia Bulldog on the field, man. I mean, this guy is a 4.3 guy. He ran a 4.4 at his pro day or at the combine, but when he's fully healthy, he got 4.3 speed. He's a long strider. Once he gets up on the defensive back, he can really go deep. The question's going to be, can Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett get the ball to these speedsters? I mean, these guys can fly. I mean, Kelvin Austin the third is a track guy. He got Olympic type speed, and so does Pickens. Do we have a quarterback that can get it that deep? So these guys can run under it. You're talking about some of these guys is the fastest to come into the NFL since Cliff Branch. Could we have a quarterback like Daryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber, that can get it to him? So we just have to find out. Speed does you no good. You don't have a quarterback to get it out there.
Rest in peace to him. Died recently.
So let's talk about the defensive picks for the Steelers. They drafted in the third round DeMarvin Leal, a defensive end from Texas A&M. This is the second straight defensive player that the Steelers have picked from Texas A&M. Last year was Buddy Johnson. And they're saying that, quote, Terrell Austin had this to say, we had a very nice grade on him. The fact that he was sitting there really surprised all of us, so it was a no-brainer for us to choose him. And he had a pretty good junior season before going out. 8.5 sacks, 12.5 tackles for loss. He led the Aggies in all categories. Now, of course, the big thing with the Steelers is the defensive line's health and age. Of course, Tyson Alulu was lost for the season due to that ankle injury. Stephon Tuitt, due to a knee surgery and I guess you want to call it just a mental health issue, I guess, for lack of a better term, and really not wanting to phrase it about as poorly as you possibly could. And so do you think that this guy, alongside Isaiah Loudermilk and also the rest of the Steelers' defensive line, which in that with those injuries and all other things around them, Chris Wormley carved out a really nice niche for himself. So do you think that Leo can go out there early and maybe steal a job, or at least a nice rotation piece?
I tell you what, DeMarvin and Buddy Johnson will be fighting over a spot on the bench. You know, there'll be two Texas A&M guys sitting right next to each other on the bench. Hey, listen, this is an undersized – and Steelers play a 3-4 defense. You can't have a guy 6'3", 280. You want somebody around 300, 305 pounds to anchor that defensive end position. This guy's an athlete. He can do a backflip. So maybe the halftime show, we could throw Frisbees to the dog and catch at halftime show and let him do some backflips, but he's not going to play. Listen, it's Wormsley's job. I don't care if Tuitt comes back and is mentally, healthily cleared to play. I don't think he's better than Wormsley. Wormsley showed what he can do those last 5 games. I got a lot of confidence in him. The main guy we want back is Tyson Alulu, to anchor that nose guard position. Let's hope we can get something out of the Davis twins this year. Already got rid of that bum Bugs from Alabama, and so they've been cleaning house a little bit. But I don't look for DeMarvin to see much play time this year, along with Buddy Johnson.
You think he's more of like a special teams rotational piece, kind of similar to what Robinson, the 7th round pick from Ole Miss?
And if Tannehill keeps shooting off his mouth, that'll be another Texas A&M guy on the bench.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We didn't go back. I don't mean to backtrack, Jim, but what is your scouting report on your whole? What was your school scouting report on the Malik Willis?
I took a lot of heat back in 2012 because my number one quarterback on my report was Russell Wilson, and everybody had the kid that went to the Colts, Andrew Luck, is number one. Mel Kiper and all them said Andrew Luck was the best since Elway and all this other crap. And history showed that Russell Wilson was the best, even though he'll do anything his wife tell him to do. That's why he's in Denver. But Malik Willis was my highest rated quarterback since Russell Wilson. That's how high I was on this young man. I was really shocked that the NFL I was shocked about the rise because I really didn't think that many people knew that much about him. I've been talking about him way before the Senior Bowl game, but I thought he was going top 5, top 7. I was shocked when he was still available when the Pittsburgh Steelers picked at number 20.
It was a shock for all of us. And if you remember, I remember seeing a report that the Steelers were ready to trade up to 15 And again, guys, I was saying literally since the Steelers draft pick was announced, 15 is probably the most optimal trading position for them if they can just get a pick for pick swap. I don't think it was going to be that. I think they were probably going to lose one of those mid-round picks and maybe the 7th along with it. And of course, the Steelers did have multiple picks in the 7th round. They drafted, again, as I mentioned earlier, Mark Robinson, a linebacker, but similar to Jack, running back hybrid. And then they also chose a quarterback from South Dakota State, Chris Aduakin. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. And it seems like this guy, that was kind of a pick where I went, I understand they're trying to replenish the quarterback room with the death of Haskins and also losing Josh Dobbs out to Cleveland now. But what's your thoughts on this in terms of, they also got Connor Hayward, so they added another brother to the equation with the Steelers. I sat there going, I expected the Steelers were going to address one of two things. Somewhere on the offensive line and a corner somewhere. So, do you agree with that? Do you think that the Steelers kind of went away from what they needed really in this draft?
Let me just go back real quick as far as the first round. I would have traded Devin Bush and Terrell Edmonds for a warm six-pack to move up to 14 to get Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. I thought that if you was going to get a defensive player, I said if Hamilton slides out of the top 10, you got to move up and get him. He'd be perfect in a Steeler uniform. He's fit right in there, that strong safety position. But I wasn't totally shocked that the Pittsburgh Steelers took, Connor Hayward. Nepotism runs live and well. You know what I mean? I go back to the years where they had, 20 rounds in the draft, 12 rounds in the draft. A 12th round draft pick was a high pick. Pittsburgh Steelers did a waste. You already got T.J. Watt's brother playing fullback. Everybody knows, anybody from Pittsburgh knows, I don't like the Haywards. I'm from Gateway, and Cam Hayward was going to play for Gateway, and he snuck out like a thief in the night to move to Atlanta. And we could have won some championships, and we lose out on Corner. Him and Brisker from Penn State would have been great for the Gateway Gators. So I have no love for the Haywards. They better not ever move back to Monroeville. But hey, Cam Hayward needs somebody to carry his shoulder pads, and that's what's going to happen. The Steelers don't even use a fullback. So who you going to keep? T.J. Watt's brother or Cam Hayward's brother? It was a waste of pick.
So I thought he played tight end too. I think he was more of a
fullback, tight end. He's more H-back.
H-back, yeah. And plus,
what are you going to play on stilts? He going to get some stilts to play tight end?
No,
Come on, man.
Hold on, Spoken Jim. We got somebody to hold Penn State's shoulder pads. Think about that.
I'm kind of.
You got Penn State pads on shoulder pads on one arm. You got Cameron Hayward on another.
Hey, I'll call you back.
Or shoulder pads on one arm.
Eddie, I'll call you back. Oh, she got right. All right.
So, Jim, was that do you think that was the worst pick by the Steelers, the Connor Hayward one?
The Steelers drafted D-, so I wasn't impressed with this draft at all.
Wow.
I don't know what Kevin Colbert was doing.
He's a hard grader.
Maybe he's tired. Maybe he's tired of all this Hall of Fame talk. Because I don't understand how in the world you're talking about Kevin Colbert going to the Hall of Fame when Dick Haley, who drafted 13 Hall of Famers and won 4 Super Bowls, Dick Haley ain't in the Hall of Fame, which is a shame. Maybe it's because his son is Todd Haley. Maybe that's what's keeping him out. But Dick Haley
Probably.
definitely should be in the Hall of Fame, man. 13
Yeah.
Hall of Famers? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I told Brandon after the draft. At first, I'm kind of with you there, Jim. I wasn't too impressed. I said C- originally, then I bumped it up to like a C+ because I do like the receivers, but I don't know. Yeah, like, some of those picks, they were definitely head scratching. Definitely,
Yeah,
like,
it was.
other
Well, what guys?
other than the Austin one on day 3, like the last 3 were I didn't know what they were doing really.
Yeah, I was like,
I feel like the linebacker Robinson from Ole Miss was clearly just to bolster up some special teams. The quarterback from South Dakota State, again, as I'll say that felt like a room booster thing. And I'm like, if you really wanted him, I'm willing to bet you probably could have got him undrafted.
yeah, you could have. Because there was a safety on the
See,
board.
all-
I like, not a safety on lot. Could have had a middle linebacker named Jesse Lakita from Penn State. You know, I gotta plug my stuff.
Yeah.
He could have been an extra impact if you was gonna pick a couple linebackers. You need one, a backup to Watt and Highsmith. So that was one.
See,
There's a
all
lot of
three.
ways
See, all
to do
three.
it.
See, all three of you guys. Not only are you guys football gurus, but you're great journalists. Why hasn't anybody interviewed Mitch Trubisky to find out if there's a, don't forget, he was the host of Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins was staying at his house. Is that affecting Mitch Trubisky? Has he been okay since that tragedy? We don't really know. It could be another. I'm not saying he's going to. It could be another step on to it. Who knows? I don't think anybody's interviewed him or talked to him since Haskins died.
Nah, I don't think anyone has.
No one has it now. I think I'd like to believe that he knows the dealio with the entire situation. Everybody and their mother knew that the Steelers were going to go quarterback in the first round. The question was, who was it going to be? And of course, he now knows the difference between like being the top like quarterback that has the job near secured to a guy that I don't know if I'm going to be in this league anymore after the next year or something like that. I mean, one could say one foul swoop and he could be playing for the Maulers in the USFL.
That's true.
And honestly,
That's very true.
I think the combination of all four of us would be a better pick for the Maulers right now, quarterback. But we're not doing a USFL podcast anymore. I don't think that's worth it. But there's a lot to talk about with this draft. I mean, again, no offensive line taken, and you're talking about one pick for the Ravens that the Steelers should have got. It really should have been Lindenbaum, especially now knowing that another quarterback would not have been drafted until the third round. And the one question that I have with this, everything going on, I'm going to go take a look at the Steelers draft list in that third round and see, could they have gotten the quarterback they wanted anyway in that third round?
I'm not sure. I have to go back and look as well, but I believe Willis was still available to the Steelers in the third. I'm not sure though. Chris may know that. I'm not sure.
I don't know on the top of my head. I think he was after.
Because
Yeah,
a lot of those was
after the
compensatory picks. So
he was
in the compensatory. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was after. I remember now because I tweeted shortly after the DeMarvin Leo pick that he went to the Titans. So yeah, I don't know if Kenny picked. I mean, like, how concerned are you about his age? Because as you mentioned, he's going to be 24. He was the 20th pick, and that hasn't happened for a quarterback that late since like 1997. It was like 26 overall. This quarterback class really wasn't highly graded. So, and there's a history of quarterbacks after like 20, like they don't usually pan out too. I mean, there's a few obviously, but mostly they don't pan out.
Well, I remember in 2004, J.P. Loftman went about around the 20th pick, and he was the only bust out of that class of Rivers, Manning and Big Ben. So yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah.
But don't forget, Bart Starr was a 15th round pick. So and he
You
played at
that,
Alabama. So yeah.
you just never know. Like NFL is like it's not exact science. And this quarterback class was really just like it was like a boom or bust. I think with a lot of quarterbacks.
Oh, but what do you think about his hand size? Do you think that's a big deal?
I don't think they would have that as a measurement if it wasn't important. One of my favorite quarterbacks of all time was Warren Moon, and
Right.
Warren Moon couldn't hold the ball a lot of times when he got hit, and he threw about the prettiest pass of anybody in NFL history. So, I know that Pickett's wear gloves on both hands, and I don't think it's a huge deal. But National Football League, they train guys on how to get that football out of their hand. I think Lawrence Taylor started it with that tomahawk chop, and the guys have perfected that afterwards. Yeah. So we'll just have to see. I'm not concerned about it, but I don't think the NFL would measure it if it wasn't important. And I think he got the smallest hands of any quarterback in the league, even guys on the practice squad.
Yeah.
All right, so last question for you, Jim. We want you to explain more in depth about your draft grade. You mentioned it early. You gave it a D-, which has to be probably the lowest non-shock jock ranking for a Steelers draft. I had to go check ESPN. Chris, do you know what ESPN rated it?
Their Post Gazette posted a bunch of the grades today, and no one had a D-. I know Jerry Dulac had a C, but I don't think I've seen anything lower than a C as far as the online.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Listen, whether you love Kenny Pickens or you don't like him, the best that I have him ranked in the AFC got some dogs at quarterback, man. Best I have him ranked is 10th. I got Joe Burrow over him. I got Lamar Jackson. I got Deshaun Watson. I got Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert. I got, Mac Jones. I got Derek Carr, Josh Allen. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback that's the worst quarterback. And I'm not just talking about Pickett, whether it's Trubisky or Mason Rudolph. Those guys at best would fall number 10. So the AFC North, we're already at the bottom. So now what do? You got to have a great running game. And I think we got a great runner in Najee Harris. And you don't get an offensive lineman like Ty mentioned. The Ravens picked an offensive lineman that would have fit perfect Pittsburgh Steelers,
Oh yeah.
Mute yourself.
Sorry.
We needed a running back to help spell Najee Harris, and we didn't get a running back there. Listen, I'm big on tight ends. Tight ends are 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260 pounds. Strong safeties are 5'10", 5'11". So it's a natural mismatch. I like to have sometimes to go to a two tight end offense. We didn't address that. Middle linebacker, we got the weakest middle linebackers in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. We're linebacker youth.
Whoa, really?
And
even with like Jack
Devin
coming
Bush
in,
running around here avoiding tackles. So that's one of the main reasons. I thought that day 3 they totally took off day 3. How you going to take a quarterback that's 190 pounds? I don't care how good he throws. Would you getting him ready for the XFL? You know what I mean? You can't play in the National Football League as a quarterback as 190 pounds.
I want to jump into this because the tight end room. What I didn't get about the Hayward pick was because of one thing. I thought the tight end room was pretty good this year. I mean, Raider came on. What else? There was the second guy, Chris, I forgot his name.
Gentry.
Yeah, Gentry came on. I thought the tight end room for the Steelers was for all intents and purposes, and we lost Jim right there. I think because of the connection, but
Yeah.
I mean I understand with that, but the linebacker group I thought with Jack was much improved. Than you're really just hoping and wishing that Devin Bush comes in there. So I understand with the middle linebacker group right now, sans Jack. And of course he loves Bob Spillane, but I thought the tight end room, that was the one pick where I was like, especially a tight end fullback, that wasn't really the one that they needed to do.
It's like the same role as Derek Watt, basically, like an H-back fullback, because he's not even 6 foot. I don't think, or he's 6 foot at least. I don't know.
And he's not even playing, and they're not even playing Watt.
Yeah,
so what's the point?
I mean, I guess special teams maybe they see in Connor Hayward, but I don't know. Like, I don't want to say. I don't know if they took the day off, but I mean, after that Austin pick, I really don't know what they did.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. That was like, not impressed. But geez, like D-. But I was going to tell Jay, Smoking Jim this. I thought it was going to be. I think they have like before they drafted Pickett. I thought they had the worst quarterback situation in the AFC, and I've said that.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't. I'll play it to you like this: the room's younger now, the room is younger and more unproven now. Yeah. So I'm gonna give it. It's still in the back end, but I'd want to say that it probably goes from 30 to 20.
30 to 20.
I mean, maybe that's being harsh.
I'm talking about AFC in general.
Oh well. In terms of I went league. In terms of the AFC, I think it's nicely in the middle of the pack, maybe the back of that middle.
It's like it's towards the back. Like I'm still talking about Trevor Lawrence and the kid from the Jets, Zach Wilson. They can make a leap. You get what I'm saying? I would say maybe Tua could be. Tua can make a leap. He gets to Tyreek Hill, got a Armstead on the offensive line.
Yeah. There's a lot. You're talking about Tyreek Hill and Miami, of course, right?
Oh yeah. I'm talking about with Tua. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's still a bunch of hullabaloo about them potential. Where's Deebo Samuel going? Like I heard for some reason they try to put him into Miami, and I'm like, no, that's way too much money right now for 2 wide receivers.
Yeah,
I heard the Jets. I heard that's the team I heard.
Yeah, that would be the most interesting fit because he's reuniting with Saleh, who's the head coach.
So, about what time did you get home and you noticed the water?
About 6:30.
Huh?
About 7 o'clock.
7. Okay, because I was in my kitchen, which is right above you.
Sorry about that, folks. He's right. Brandon was having Brandon right now, of course, is dealing with a little bit of trouble in terms of the house. I guess that's why he was out in his car. And as you can see, this has totally gone off the rails, Chris. But
I thought something popped up on my screen where something like you know how those ads pop up sometimes.
I thought he had helium in his voice for a second, but that was me.
Yeah.
Regardless, as we can see it, I'm gonna message Jim by saying I think we got enough out of that. But yeah.
Is he trying to come back on now? Or?
Nah, I don't know if we're good with the interview.
I wanted to ask him. So is he a scout, a consultant? I wanted to ask him how he got into scouting.
Yeah, that could have been a question. He's a consultant because I believe he was. I think he was around with Nunn and all that stuff, so that could have been another question to ask him. We'll get him on again, though. Okay. We'll have him on again. I think he puts. See why we wanted him on here with him, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, it's unfortunate he had, we're having technical difficulties, but I was gonna ask him there. I was ready. I was like, that was my next question, but
Yeah, so we'll have him on again probably around training camp time because, of course, the big story is the Steelers are back in Latrobe.
Yeah.
for the first time in 2 years, over 2 years, I believe.
Yeah,
So
that was good. I didn't expect a D minus, but smoking Jim, he didn't hold back there. He doesn't like the Devin Bush pick, obviously.
he doesn't like Devin Bush. I'm really surprised that he actually managed to put 10 in a list. Usually, Chris, I got to show you some of his Facebook pages posts. He would do a top 10 list, and there would be like he would go, for example, in 5, it would go down to 5E.
Oh, wow.
And he'd still continue the top 10, and sometimes he would have offshoots of that. You gotta love Smoking Jim. Of course, he's a mentor, a great friend to me and Brandon. Of course, I also listen to him for boxing knowledge, and I know we had Gilbert Manzano on here earlier for the Chargers podcast for last season, but of course, if there's one thing Smoking Jim also doesn't play about, it's his boxing.
You can go back into your apartment.
Is there a Twitter account that he could that people can follow him on?
I don't think he has a Twitter account. He said thanks, he really enjoyed it, and of course, and we always thank Smoking Jim for his time. He's on Facebook. You can check out if you're in the Bethel Park area. Pittsburgh Sportsline is on there, so you can check him out there. And of course, you can also look on Pittsburgh Sportsline Facebook page. You can also check him out on Pittsburgh Community Television. That's where his show, The Boxing Authorities, is on. And also, you can see Steel City Sports World. There's a couple other people we can have on this show as well. I'd be interesting to put Claudio Relzano because he's really in tune with a lot of the Italian American community here in Pittsburgh, and he would tell you all sorts of stories about Bruno Sammartino, and of course, maybe Franco Harris with Franco's Italian Army. That would be a very interesting podcast for us to have on there, just to have more guests that, for once, I book on this show, Chris. I know that you're the head booker when it comes to this show.
Anybody you guys, I know you mentioned that other boxer. I think you said he worked out with Bud Dupree or something like that.
Yes, and Bud is coming back into town with the celebrity softball game at Wild Things Park. I am not the PA announcer for the Wild Things, of course, but regardless, so there's a lot we could talk on with that. Maybe potentially we can get Bud himself on here. You never know.
Free on them.
All we got to do is ask.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt. But regardless, Chris, I want to know. You gave them a C+.
Yeah, I was. I like the receiver. I really like Pickens. You can't really go wrong with Colbert and his selection for receivers. And Smoking Jim, he put the perfect guy that kind of reminded me of Martavis Bryant. Really kind of reminds me of Pickens. And while he's not as big, he kind of has like Plexico Burress a little bit too. Going back that far. But
he's 6'3". The Steelers are getting big again in the wide receiver room. Really, it's the kid from Memphis and also Deontay that are the small guys in the room. And of course, I'll put it to you like this: that top 3, while incredibly young for the Steelers, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Chase Claypool in terms of everything, because he's 6'4" out there. So you'd think he'd be a jump ball guy, and Pickens, as you can see in his draft tape, is very clearly the jump ball guy that we thought we were going to get with Chase Claypool. Then, of course, when you're dealing with a quarterback that's limited in arm talent from what he used to be, and, well, yes, Kenny Pickett, of course, with that, not really known for his arm strength, he has made NFL throws. I mean, he can't put it out there 40 yards. I think the perception of an NFL arm has just been totally warped when you see guys like Patrick Mahomes out there chucking at 60 like it's no big deal out there. Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree with Smoking Jim about the day 3 picks. I really, I like the Austin pick, but he didn't seem impressed about Leal either, DeMarvin Leal. I know he's a tweener and everything, but he seems to have a pretty good motor. He runs the ball. The Steelers, they usually do pretty well with defensive linemen. I think he's a 3rd round pick. We'll have to see. I like the receiver picks the best. You know how I feel about Pickett. I really don't know. I know why they did it, but I don't know how. History, like we mentioned, like 20th pick. After that, he's only 3 months younger than Justin Herbert too. So I'm kind of worried about his upside. Like, did he reach his ceiling? Kind of. Well, and he only had really one good year in college, and it was a weak ACC. I don't know. I could be wrong. It won't be the first time.
I mean, let's take a look at the quarterback. Let's take a look at the other quarterback also with it. One thing you could say about Kenny Pickett, he faced ACC defenses. He had to go against Clemson. So even a weak Clemson still had a good defense and all that stuff. He was facing pro caliber defenses his entire 5 years at Pitt. And when you look at Malik Willis, he of course he went to Auburn. They tried to put him at corner. He said no and left, and then he got the opportunity and he showed unreal arm talent for a team that was playing in the NCAA independents, which it's different from going to Notre Dame, because Notre Dame, they're going to have a hard schedule because they're going to make it worth their while, so that whenever you look at them in, whether it's the old BCS or now with the college football playoff, they're a player because of who they played.
Yeah. I mean,
we didn't see a lot of liberty. It wasn't like Coastal. It wasn't like a Coastal Carolina or even a BYU with Zach Wilson, where he had to play against everybody, because BYU wanted to have that respect as a school that, kind of followed in that ilk of Notre Dame, in which we played everyone.
Yeah. I would have went with Willis over Pickett, but I don't really know about Willis either. I think every quarterback in this class was a boom or bust. I didn't really like Ritter too much. I didn't really like his release, and his throwing motion was kind of awkward. But
once upon a time, Sam Howell. This was supposed to be the draft that had one Sam Howell and two Spencer Rattler.
Yeah,
I think Howell would have been interesting, because Ritter had solid years as well, and of course led Cincinnati, being the first, I guess you could say, non-Power 5 team to finally break through into big games that isn't Boise State or something like that. But Boise State was in the BCS era, and there was absolutely no chance they were getting up to a national championship. But regardless, Ritter was interesting because he had to go up against. Eventually, he had to face Bama, and he didn't do well. But nobody really does well against Bama unless you have an entire squad around you.
Yeah, I would have waited it out till next year to get a quarterback, because this quarterback class is one of the worst, in recent time, that I've ever seen. Really, it just shows Pickett was the latest quarterback to get picked in a draft since 1997. So I think that just tells you everything you know. And then the last quarterback after he was picked in the first round, Pickett, was not to the third round,
Which is insane in this quarterback-driven league.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think the Dan Marino thing did play at least some part, into it. But, they know him well. He's right next door. They like his maturity. They want someone that could play right away. So that's why I think he needs to start right away.
Yeah. I know I went crazy with the bold prediction on draft night, in which they could potentially try to attempt to sit him for a year. I'll put it to you like this. I've amended that take. I think that Kenny does sit for a little bit. I think that they potentially give Trubisky an opportunity to play himself out. But in the end, Kenny Pickett does finish the season as the Steelers' starting quarterback.
Yeah, maybe not week one, but at some point, hopefully sooner than later.
They got to take him off at one point. He isn't getting much younger, of course, whenever you look at his age.
And people say, 24 years, that's not old. Quarterbacks played to their mid-30s and stuff, but it's all
We have one guy still playing in his mid-40s.
Yeah, it's all about, if he was really good and stuff, and he was, most quarterbacks, they come out early, or they, they're blue chip players, kind of, they're surefire first round picks, and you don't know everything. There's been picks that have been bust and stuff, but look at next year's class. Everybody's saying that quarterback class, at least Stroud, Bryce Young, I mean, they'll probably go top 5 both. So, and I don't know if the Steelers would have been that bad, or if they're going to be that bad.
I don't think they'd ever be that bad
Yeah,
in my lifetime. It would be insane for the Steelers to have the number 1 overall draft pick in my lifetime. It might happen in the future. I just don't think it'll be right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
Final grade for me with this class, I'm gonna give it C minus.
So you're going with
C minus. I don't have courage in my convictions to give him a D, like Smoking Jim, but Jim gave him a D minus, and it's C minus. But man, is it flirting hard with a very nice number for what you would get in that D grade. But a C minus, I think, is this. I think that the fact that they got their guy, and if they believed in it so hard, then I guess you have to believe in it themselves. Pickens really makes this interesting, and I guess the other wide receiver from Memphis. I want to give Leo more credit with that in terms of it, and I think they learned from their lesson with Quincy Roche last year. You need all outside linebackers and plus a tweener project. Maybe he can slim down a little bit and become an OLB for this team in a rotational effort. But but the rest of that day 7, I think that Odulikin will be the Quincy Roche of this year's draft and not make the team outright, because it's just insane for him to put a 7th rounder in there. And they could but he might make the practice squad, but that's
I don't know what the thought process with that was. I mean, it was Colbert's last pick too, his career. So I don't know. It was definitely I don't know, head scratching decision, but I don't know. We'll have to see. And I put a question on Twitter the other day about NFL comparisons for Kenny Pickett, and a bunch of Derek Carrs were in there. Tony Romo was another one that a lot of people were saying, and then even some were saying Joe Burrow, but that would be like the
I think Joe Burrow is very wishful thinking based off the entire same situation. Brandon has been preaching Kirk Cousins plus, but you want to know who Kirk Cousins plus really is? Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the sexy saying, but let's call a spade a spade. Kirk Cousins plus legitimately is Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan won an MVP. Matt Ryan made a Super Bowl, and really that's the last frontier for as how good as Kirk Cousins has in a vacuum with the touchdown to interception ratio and all that stuff. He doesn't lead his teams far, and that was also a little bit of the kick on Matt Ryan before he finally broke through in that 2016 season that was ruined by his play calling for one, and Tom Brady just going all Tom Brady.
Yeah, I saw one person commented saying he's Kirk Cousins or he's mobile Kirk Cousins. And I don't like
mobile Matt Ryan. I guess would also be a thing as well.
I was watching some of the highlights or the film or like on the YouTube and stuff, and I could kind of see that Tony Romo comparison, because when Pickett scrambles, he looks like Romo. Like when he does that back spin to escape the pocket, it does have some like Romo-esque type feel to it.
I mean, that would be a very nice comparison too. Not that Romo's he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster.
Yeah. Chris Sims said that Pickett is a better version of Jared Goff.
That would be I think a good version of Jared Goff wins the Rams that Super Bowl, but I digress. We've been spinning our wheels too much after we lost Jim and lost Brandon, because of course he's handling some issues right now with his house, but he wanted to be on this podcast with Smoking Jim, and once again we do thank him so much for coming on to the show. And Chris, of course, it's good to be back on the podcast with you, and we'll see what else comes up here. I guess we're kind of in the end game of the off season, really, until I guess after rookie camps and
schedule comes out next week.
Of course, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, but one last thing before we go, I saw a mock draft a way too early 2023 mock draft has the Steelers selecting wide receiver Jordan Addison at 11th overall. And we don't know what school he's going to be coming from. That has been a big story lately because he's in the transfer portal right now, and USC reportedly has a $3 million Neal deal for him, and a house also supposedly.
Yeah.
But, we don't know yet for sure right now.
I'll put it to you like this: unpopular opinion. USC has a bunch of weapons, and I think that he's a Bolitnikov, but USC loves shiny toys, man. That's the one thing I have to say with Addison. There's a reason why Larry Fitzgerald is a legend here in Pitt. And he's talented enough that he could have gone anywhere and done it. But man, when you do it at Pitt, you have that pedigree. Pitt's a pro factory, for lack of a better term. And the Steelers are really buying into that with Pickett, with James Conner. So we'll see. I don't blame Addison for going out and taking $3 million from USC. I'll put it to you like this: 10-year-old Tyler would have been, "You're going to USC, buddy, no doubt. See you later. See ya. I'm already halfway on the plane. $3 million and a house in LA to play for USC. That's the dream, Chris."
Yeah, and I'm all for college players. I kind of changed my stance on it. Before, I was kind of thinking like, they do get most of them like on scholarships, so they get free school and stuff. But you look at the money these schools bring in from ticket sales, parking, merchandise, concessions, TV contracts. I mean, they're making a killing, and the coaches get paid millions of dollars. But the players, I mean, what about the players? Now I think only like at Division I schools really, because like they're really don't like Power 5 are really the only schools that make money.
I think I've been preaching this, and I was talking with a guy, Mr. Burwell at the Western Pennsylvania Hall of Fame. I don't know why. No, I know that, not to get semi-political, I know that we don't listen to the universal healthcare system for the United States. If there's one thing I really never got with the entire NCAA debacle, please, Chris, go educate yourself on the major junior hockey system up in Canada. Me being an absolute nerd for hockey at my biggest point, and of course, shout out to the Penguins, triple overtime. The major junior system is the best way to look at in terms of how the NIL deal should be for college athletes, especially in these big-time sports with football and basketball. I mean, there's regulation there. They're getting paid there, and while they're kind of sorta deferring a college education, they do get the opportunity for 5 years with Canadian inter-university sport up there. That's the NCAA for Canada. But they do also do college stuff and high school classes, prep school stuff. That really should be what the NCAA looks at in terms of everything, because they still get treated like pro athletes. Like, they can get traded, they can get released, and while they primarily stay to their province or whatever it is in terms of the major junior drafts and all that stuff, when they get released, it's kind of like a transfer portal, in which I remember one goaltender, Jacob DeSeris, he played for Brandon in the Memorial Cup one year, and then he got released from Brandon, and he went to St. John's and won it there. So there's a lot of similarities that the NCAA could do with their transfer portal, NIL, that could clean up all this mess and allow kids that are truly D1 to be in D1 and not have to go to junior college, or at worst case scenario have a preferred walk-on. There's a lot of stuff that I could talk with the NCAA to make this podcast go an hour, as we're about to go with the lives. But I that's the thing that I'm passionate about, like, in terms of if it's like it could be done in a way better way.
Yeah, there's definitely, I know there's a lot of people complaining about the new Neal deal and everything, and how college sports are changing, but I don't know. It definitely is kind of crazy just how the transfer portal just changed everything. It just
COVID ruined it too, but I mean they're dealing with mega seniors Pickett had a guy that was playing for 6 years.
Yeah, and there's nothing you could really do because that COVID thing was really tough. Kids lost a whole year really. Or it was like a partial season kind of. There's so many games were canceled and everything. So, it is what it is kind of thing when it comes to that. But
it worked out for some. It worked out for Kenny Pickett, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of other success stories when we look at that COVID year when it's all said and done 5 or so years down the road. But regardless, that's all for us here. I'm Ty Polk. That's Chris Ward. Brandon Walker was with us. You have been listening and watching the Renegade Blitz.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on renegadeblitz.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.